subject I want to talk to you about lighting up the holidays. It's a, forget the bottom tagline. Apparently I never changed the tagline. But even though my company does a lot of school dances and everything else, we've gotten more and more into the rental market, corporate, and everything else. Unwillingly, because as a DJ, I'll be honest with you, I hate DJing corporate parties. I would much rather be shot in the foot several times. But corporate parties will pay a lot, or they will take care of us when it comes to AV. What I've noticed in my market and talking to other people is that unfortunately our holidays parties still marry. From the music side of things, we saw less money being spent in general. We saw bonuses that were given out versus actually having parties, and more people were doing the do-it-yourself, thanks to, I don't want to say the iPod, but now you can get Spotify account, and most corporate parties are just one background music. We saw the DJ side of things really dying. But lighting allowed us to really bring that up. So now, with them saying, well, we don't have as much money anymore for decorations and all that, now we see that they're doing less decor. So now we need to do more bang for the buck. And what I've seen is that the companies like us and other companies that can do more with less fixtures, they can say, look, I can do this and this and this and still stay in your budget. You're going to stay on the leading edge, not just for that corporate or that holiday event, but for all the events coming up afterwards. There's one company that wanted some very basic projector mapping. I actually meet with them next week to finalize everything. Originally, it was just going to be one projector aimed at a wall, and we were just going to do a basic snow scene, which you'll see in a second. And suddenly that $1,000 job is now turning into $5,000 because now they're wanting to add this and this and this. And apparently they're still going to be under budget from last year because their budget was less. And also, as far as from the end users, whenever I'm helping other, whether it's a DJ or lighting designer, I tell them, like, gone are the days where you're really having to worry about, well, you're going to need this much power. Whenever a client hears you're going to need this power, you're going to need to drop this and drop that, all they hear is, how much more is this going to cost me? So it's really nice knowing that with some of the fixtures like this, I can put several of them on a 20M circuit and not worry about it. As far as more award ceremonies or presentations, we're seeing that, and that's why we are doing, during the holiday season, a lot less of the DJ side of things and more of the AV type. As people are moving, whether they're having it in hotels and they can't afford the hotel anymore, now they're going to have it in their own warehouse. There's a company that I work with where they literally do nothing but tomato harvest. And they used to have it in a nice hotel every year. Well, sales went down for them. They couldn't afford it, so they had it in their warehouse. So even though they don't have that $20,000 for the hotel, they had a lot more money they could spend towards AV, towards lighting design. Even, everything from this pipe and drape to decorating the whole area up. So that was money that went in my pocket, unfortunately, for the hotel. And of course, do-it-yourself can be profitable for us and for the end user because of the rental market. If somebody says, hey, we are going to do our own music, okay, wonderful. Let me rent you something like the ELS Go, where you can just plug in your iPod or you have your iPhone or even just have an SD card. I just rent 2 or 3 of those out. They have them in different rooms, different sections. They rent it for a week and a half, and all that's doing is making money. They come in, pick it up, drop it off, and it's good to go. We also try to go for fixtures that aren't really overly expensive. So if they come back saying, whoops, it broke, that security deposit they paid, it's not going to cover for a new one, but it's not the end of the world. It's not like they dropped a $2,000 light versus when they only spend a few hundred for it. Oops, there we go. But it's also not all business when it comes to holiday parties. We see a lot more with private events. As we started, used to be for us that it was corporate parties where we did a lot of holiday themed things. But then when I post stuff online or on our website, now we're getting weddings that call us, during the holidays, especially destination weddings. And for some reason, a popular thing has been snow in Florida for destination weddings. You think if you're coming down to Florida, you want to go get away from the snow. But no. So they say, oh, we're from up north. We want to kind of recreate, winter in New York. Okay, not a problem. So we talk about doing gobos like you see on the wall, doing projector mapping, which I'll show you in a second. School and college events, again, that's my bread and butter, so I'm partial to that. But when they're doing Christmas parties and they tell me, hey, look, we don't have any money for this, like we have maybe a few thousand for decor, we're going to have a student DJ, I hear it all the time. It used to aggravate me, it still does kind of aggravate me, but now I'm like, hey, no problem, let me bring out some lighting. Which is great because my DJs can take a break after a really busy homecoming season. My lighting guys are working year-round. Fundraisers. As much as I love to give stuff away, I don't run a charity myself. So I have to charge something even if it's a fundraiser. Number one culprit has been Relay for Life. I wholeheartedly support all the research and everything else, but I still have to make money. I give them a good break, but when they're telling me, hey, we want to do projections here, projections there, I tell them, look, I can do it for free, but I don't have to use this many number of projectors. I can do all LEDs, so just give me one 20 amp circuit. You don't have to pay the hotel or the venue for power, and you just pay our stuff. And then, of course, again, I go back to rentals. I used to dread doing rentals because things well, they still are expensive, but they're not as expensive as they used to be. And especially if you're a dealer and you get a DJ that says, oh, this is my slow time of the year. August for me is completely dead. I don't do anything in August. There's not many weddings, and the weddings that are happening in August for some reason happen out by the beach. I do not want to be on the beach in August. Okay, you guys are all from Florida, I hope, so you know. You're from California, so you don't quite know what it is to have your eyeballs sweat. And then have the bride say, oh yeah, everybody's going to be dressed up. Outside, by the beach, August, yeah, I'm going to dip that out. But rentals have been huge for us. Again, somebody calls us, hey, we're going to do an outdoor ceremony in the beach. You know what's not out by the beach? Power. So we can, rent out the ELS systems and all that. But as far as the holiday themes, again, even just somebody, we hit up the rich neighborhoods, right? We just sent out flyers and we tell them, hey, listen, if you guys are going to decorate your house during Christmas, we got some lights that you can rent out. Because at least in, my area, Central Florida, you have neighborhoods that get into competitions of who can have the best looking house. So now we're incorporating projector mapping, we're incorporating Gobos on the walls, the IP65 rated fixtures so they can use outside, and if it rains in, it's not a big deal. So now they're not having to sit there and spend hours and hours doing the extra decor. They just pay us for a 2 or 3 day competition, and that's it. And what do they win? Nothing. So, never quite got that. So first of all, the most important fixture, and I always talk about this in every seminar I do, and that is your floods. Floods are the foundation of any fixture. If you're dealing with end users, meaning if you're a dealer, the very first thing that they should be asked is, what are your flood lights? I know way too many people, whether it's a DJ or somebody who does lighting on the side, whatever the case may be, that have no floods or put zero thought in them. In my opinion, you should put more attention to your floods than anything else out there, because that is the one thing that really affects the rest of the show. If you're doing floods in a hotel and they want all pretty blues and greens like you see here, and you're using something that's not flicker free, suddenly in the middle of the award ceremony when the CEO comes out, all the lights start flickering, but you never hit the strobe effect. So that makes somebody really upset, and then your videographer no longer refers you. If you're using older LEDs that don't do a true white, the photographer takes a photo and the color balance is off, then suddenly the guest speaker looks green. Again, you lose sales, or you lose your future customer that way. And then the same thing, whenever I discuss this, LEDs for the most part know this kind of thing. DJs don't know the difference between flicker-free LEDs and non-flicker-free LEDs. They've never done that before. Next is hex versus cob. What kind of LED itself are you choosing in your flood? I collect floods like I collect headphones. I really do have almost every kind of headphone you can imagine. But I use different kinds because they all fit different needs. If I have somebody that just needs the cheapest possible uplight, I'll send them with some tricolor LEDs, and that's it. As long as they're not asking for anything special like amber or yellow, here, I can rent you these cheap. They do what you need them to do. Much different price than if somebody needed to rent a all wireless waterproof fixture. But then COB, chip on board. Are you guys familiar with chip on board? Okay, of course you are, Edgar. So chip on board, the best way I can explain it, and this is the way to explain it to sound people that are getting into lighting, is it's the line array of LEDs. Instead of a single LED, which technically still isn't a single source, but instead of a single LED, it's a whole series of chips working together to get that light further out, to get really nice color. And the most important part is no RGB shadowing. If you remember like the old school parkings that had individual color LEDs, you put them against the wall, and it was like one color. If you turn it, the color changed slightly, and if something fell on top, suddenly the color started diffracting. With COB LED, you get a lot less of it. For me, the big advantage of COB LED is that if I have low ceilings like this, I can put 4 COB LEDs in the corner and wash the entire room without having any major hot spots because of the removable lens. In an event, and this is something that I always push to anybody that I'm helping out lighting with, like if you're gonna have a photographer there, you don't want hot spots. Hot spot is basically when you shoot a parking, and this is all nice color, but then when you look at it on a camera, the whole center looks almost pure white. Basically, there's a stop difference, and I don't want to get too photo-ish on you guys, but there's a 2 or 3 stop difference. What that means is when your photographer's taking photos, if that hot spot is right here where the speaker is, now suddenly the speaker may look good, but everything else is dark around them. Or the speaker may be too bright, and everything else around it looks good. So we want to use this, I use the COBs to really flood that area. And whenever you're dealing, with a client that doesn't quite know, okay, well, if you're going to rent, you need to look at some of the different ones. The COB may not have all 6 colors, but you're going to get a nice even wash. If they're wanting very specific colors, like if they're wanting nice ambers, or if they're wanting really like a really hot pink or electric blue, you want to use that hex LED. Hex, as you know, is RGB, amber, UV, and white. When they very first were announced, the biggest response is, well, I don't really need to do blacklight parties or blacklight events. It's not about having just that UV for blacklight, it's about reaching the colors that you normally wouldn't be able to do with LED. You know, before these guys, if somebody wanted hot pink, I'd go to the LEDs and come into gels. If somebody wanted to do deep purples, LED just didn't really give me that purple. And not just in person, because they can look great in person, but I'm not designing for the human eye, I'm designing for what looks good on camera, because that's what people are going to remember. In this day and age where everybody's taking photos on Instagram and Snapchat, whatever the case may be, your work is represented by what some crappy little free app is taking a photo of. So I want to make sure that it looks as good as possible on Instagram and Facebook. And that wasn't really doable with LED. Now with Hex, that has absolutely changed. No filter. The next part of choosing a good flood is whether you can use filters. This is one of my favorites. These are the LFS series, or LSF, light shaping filters. Now this is the 30 degree, and we have different kinds. I personally stock these. I stock the diffusion, which does a really nice diffusion, and then the 1x60, which unfortunately we didn't have. But the 1x60, literally, as I turn it, it changes the degree of the light. If you are selling to end users, or if you're a designer yourself, this should be your do you want fries with that. Anytime somebody gets a flood, hey, do you want an LSF filter? Well, what's that? Well, let me show you. Now, again, with this guy here, all this is just a 30 degree. So if it's a nice tight fixture, now look at that. See, you see there's a little bit of RGB shadowing there. We're going to get rid of that, just putting that on there. But look how much smoother that color instantly became. So again, before, after. The 1x60 is my absolute favorite, especially if you want the most versatility and uplighting, because it can literally go from 1 degree tight beam, turn it around, and now you're washing a wall with half the par cans that it used to take. So not only does it save you money, but you can tell your client, listen, you get the LSF filters, I can rent them out to you. It's going to save you money because you're not going to have to worry about renting, several uplights. If you're a dealer and a DJ tells you, or a lighting person tells you, hey, listen, I only have budget for 12 uplights, but the room I think is going to need more than that. What can I do? You tell them you get the LSF filter. The other nice thing I like about it, well, it's not officially written on paper. I'm speaking from experience. I use little Velcro dots to just Velcro it onto my pars. I had a drunk person spill water on it, and at least it kept the water from getting inside the LEDs. So I'd rather sacrifice a small roll than the actual LEDs themselves. If you're really, well, if you're in Florida, you're going to be dealing with drunk people no matter where you go, including school dances. But that's where the IP65 fixtures come in. But again, if you guys want to pass that around, this is my absolute favorite tool that I use. I've owned so many rolls of that. And then, of course, electricity loves snow. Not really. We don't really have to worry about snow here. But if you are going to be doing any kind of outdoor event, if you're doing pool parties, a lot of the holiday events that I do are out where, there's water. As you know, par cans and water don't mix. So then we rent these out. And I tell people, it's like, look, if you guys are going to rent the uplights and you're going to be out by the pool, you got to pay a security deposit because water and stuff don't mix. Oh, we don't have, what happens if they break? Well, if they're broken, you guys are going to have to pay for that light if you dropped it in the water. So like, oh, well, we're really scared of that. Well, for a little bit more, we can upgrade you to an IP65 fixture, such as this one. Now, basically, the ingress rating, which is what the I in IP stands for, ingress protection rating, basically means that this is completely dust proof, and this will, you can take water, I want to say up to 50 to 80 psi, I can't remember that off the top of my head. But basically, somebody could get, beer spilled on this, you could have the sprinklers go off on it, somebody could hit it with a water hose, you're going to be fine. Do not stick this thing underwater, I definitely don't recommend that. But this is really good when you are doing the pool parties, when you're doing anything, and the easiest way to sell is with fear. Hey, so you're going to rent lights from this person, what happens if they get wet? Or what happens if your light goes down? Oh, it's like, let me show you something where that fear is going to go out. And this isn't just about water. A lot of people don't realize how much damage dust can do to a light. Or if you're in a bar, how much damage cigarette smoke will do to a light. If you never had the pleasure of opening up an amplifier in a bar, try it out. It's horrible. Same thing with restaurants. If one of the installations that I did, we took down some moving heads that have been there for about only 6-7 years. and there was about 2 or 3 inches worth of grease all around. I mean, just there were thick globs, and the whole light itself was coated in a real thin grease. And you don't think about it, but all that, you know, grease evaporates in the air. It has to go somewhere. It's going to go to your lights. After a while, those fans fail. Everything else goes in. So something like that would be kind of nice, because then if that happens, I mean, you could literally run the light through the dishwasher. I don't recommend it, but you could hose the light down if you needed to. Again, keep in mind your pressure system, or how much pressure it takes. By the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed my horrible puns at top of the call. So Santa says ho ho Gobo. Controlling your Gobos. Gobo projection is obviously one of the most popular things amongst everybody. I mean, even clients nowadays know the term Gobos. You know, I have corporate clients ask me, hey, do you have a Gobo of this? And it surprises me, wow, you know, it's called a Gobo versus a monogram. So that being said, now the end user, the final end user is getting more and more tech savvy, understanding the terms. Then we go to the next step. Okay, what can we do with our Gobos to make it more exciting? Number one thing, of course, was going to LED. You know, if somebody wanted to do 750 watt LECOs around the room, that's a lot of power. You know, now you have to pay for the power drop. If you're at a hotel where they use, for example, Edlin or GES, that's a lot of money to pay. I did years ago, don't quote me directly on the price, but we needed 8 LECOs, and the power came to, I think, like $600 to run 8 LECOs. That is insane. Now I can run 8 of these guys on one circuit with no issue. So that alone was a big selling factor, especially when my competition still hasn't switched to LED projectors yet. The other thing is being able to have some sort of control. Now, on the right-hand side is a new icon profile, which I love this thing. I currently have the icon. This is the icon IR, which you'll see in just a second. Or actually, right over here. Has this new, I'll pass it around. Ooh, there we go. This little guy plugs into your iOS device, and you can control any of your IR lights. So you can turn the Gobo on or off. This guy here is DMX controllable, but it also has the framing shutter. So I can actually go here and really clean up the image a lot more than I would need to. Like this one here, I'm not able to frame the shutters or anything like that. With this guy, I can. So why do you want to control your Gobos? You know, most people, they think Gobos, set it and forget it. Well, let's say you are doing a wedding, or you're doing an event where they want Gobos on the floor, and let's use a wedding as an example. Bride and groom want their monogram right there. Now they're dancing here. Photographer's going to hate that. Photographers hate that in every way, shape, and form. At one of the photography seminars that we did lighting and sound for, they talked about how much they hate monograms specifically because of this right here. Because as a DJ, I tell the bride and groom, stand right here. They don't do that. They go right back to it. So at least if that happens, then I can dim down the Gobo, and then when they're doing their lights, I can bring it right back up. It's also about creating scenes. You know, when you guys first came in, the whole room was already set. So it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty. But then imagine if this was an actual event. You come in, you just have the uplighting on the wall, you sit down, you have dinner, and then the Gobos slowly turn on. It creates a much nicer impact. To me, I don't like to hit everybody with everything in one shot. I want them to sit down, really absorb the colors in the room, then we start bringing the Gobos up. Then we bring something else up and just really keep wowing them throughout the entire time. And to me, that's a marketing thing, because as people keep saying, oh, wow, that's cool, oh, wow, that's cool, all my clients are hearing, oh, wow, that's cool, multiple times throughout the evening versus just one time. And of course, portability. Portability is really important, you know, and again, if you ever used a LECO, those things are huge. This guy is much smaller. This guy is even smaller, especially with all the features that it gives you, and I really like that. But then if you still need something that is completely battery powered and you can hang anywhere, then this is something that, you know, has been really nice. This is the new, what's it called, a pinpoint Gobo, and you can't see it from here, but it does have your zoom and your focus on it. So you can do different sizes with it. The battery on this guy has been running since you guys came in this morning. So it does have quite a bit of battery length in it, which now brings me to the next part, and that's surface area versus wattage. You're not going to hear this too much from the lighting guys. I've been doing Gobos and LEDs for a while, but you're going to hear this more from DJ, especially if you're a dealer or people who are just getting into it. Oh, it's only, like this guy here, oh, it's only 32 watts. It's not that bright. I'll stick with my 50 watt projector. I hate hearing that because it really matters on the surface area of the Gobo. So just to get real basic and real geeky for a second, this guy here has a D-size Gobo, which is 53.3 millimeter. This guy's a 28 millimeter Gobo. That's a 32 watt, and that's the 50 watt. But if you actually put them side by side, the brightness is going to be somewhat around the same at the same throw. And the reason is because the light on this guy is only having to do a gobo right here, as opposed to a gobo that's 3 times the size. So now you're focusing that 32 watts into this tiny little surface. Because of that, this guy right here, I've done side by side to a Lico, and it's been visibly brighter than a 750 watt Lico. For multiple reasons. One, again, you have that surface area of a D size versus a full A size gobo, but then you also have that pure white versus the yellow white. The other nice thing that I prefer, and this is just purely an advantage that I like as a DJ and as a lighting person, I have a multi-op company. I have multiple people that work for me. The number one thing everybody does wrong is I have a big sign with all of our machines, do not touch the gobo. I provide everybody with gloves, and the gloves say, for the gobo. Guess what everybody does? Touch the gobo. With LED, I'm not even worried about it. Fine, touch the gobo, rub it all over yourself, make out with it, I don't care. So it's really nice knowing that, you know, that issue about the gobos warping or breaking apart, whatever the case may be, that's long gone. Transparencies. Can they do transparencies? I don't know. I will never try. I think transparencies are the worst thing in my life. I just don't like transparencies. So I don't usually talk about that, but that's usually been asked. But again, surface area is really important. I mean, this guy here, oh, I don't remember the specs on this one. This one is I want to say it's a 10 watt. I'll have to ask him. I'm going to take this one down. We'll bring it to the other room. Even though the light's on, you'll still be able to see the gobo in the wall. Because the gobo on this thing is small. It's like a 24 millimeter gobo.
Is that rechargeable?
Rechargeable, yes. And they are changing. The new version that's coming out, they're going to put the yoke right in the center, and then they're going to switch the direction that the zoom and that lens, or the lens goes. But it will be in the center, and I'm really short, but we'll take it down so you guys can see it in a few minutes.
Do you use glass also? Or you have
Yeah.
to do that?
Yes, this one, I believe this one too, but that one will do glass. As a matter of fact.
And the holster comes with the glasses is the same size as the.
It does both. So the holster that came with it, that's the glass gobo right there. That's a pretty thick gobo.
Because the other Lucos, you have to have a special holster.
You have, yep. Okay, so.
Open it up also.
So funny story about that. We had one event where we had a beautiful glass moon gobo. My guy got confused and grabbed the wrong holder, and he was in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, dude, just put it in. It's gonna crack after 8 hours, but it'll be fine. Sure enough, it cracked after 8 hours, but the event was over by then. But yeah, this one you can use it for both. So it is really nice, and actually all of them you can use glass gobos with, without having to change your adapter.
The reason I asked is because of the crack. A lot of the customers like to keep the gobos after
Yeah.
the events, and crack just.
Well, especially at the price the glass gobos are.
Exactly. Yeah.
So absolutely, here are a few ones. I'll pass this one around to you just so you can see the gobo on that one. And in case you're curious, I buy my gobos from Pro Gobo because they can fit a lot in a tiny, tiny little gobo. As a matter of fact,
they're like $59 per steel.
Yeah, they are the fastest gobo company. Actually, we had we were doing a beauty pageant, and they gave me the wrong gobos because, you know, why not? So I told them, hey, I need a gobo right now. They're like, oh, how long? Within the hour. They made a gobo and Ubered it to me. So there.
It helps when you're in the same.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's really nice to know you can get a gobo the same day if you need to. Alright, so Santa's little helper. Software control is key. I don't want to go too crazy to software because Edgar really did a good job covering that. But again, whether you are the actual lighting designer or DJ or you're a dealer, software should always be pushed. And it was very complex to really do DMX programming. Now you can program a show in a matter of minutes depending what control board you go with. For me, especially for rentals, I really do push easy remote. Again, please use a USB router because every place can be picky when it comes to an ad hoc cable or network. But the easy remote, I've done it for multiple things. Whether it's rental, you know, oh goodness, I have to get the name of the company. But I bought a small little microcomputer. It was about this size. It runs Windows 8, and it was literally $80 for the computer. It runs my DMX flawlessly. So what I will do is, I have that computer. I actually put it on a small battery pack, and I get about 12 hours on a battery pack with this computer because it has an SSD, everything's already built in. So I'll put that computer underneath one of the uplights. I have it, so as soon as it starts up, it'll go immediately into my DMX, and I have no issues about setting anything up. So the client comes in, turns the computer on, can connect it with the iPhone, and now they can control everything directly from their iPhone or Android. Perfect for rentals. Now, if you're, let's say, dealing with a house of worship and they don't have a lot of money for a high-end board, or they say, oh, we're just going to have a bunch of the kids running it, that's usually a disaster. Anytime you hear we're going to have kids or volunteers do it, that's a translation for, boy, I hope you know the software works. I'm going to call you for customer support. So I tell them, like, look, let me set this up, easy remote. They'll never touch the software. They'll never modify anything. You only have one person modify your show, and then somebody else can trigger everything in there. So I've done that. But for when I do events, let's say if I do I did a quinceañera. Funny enough, it was a Winter Wonderland quinceañera. And she loves selfies. Like her MySpace, Facebook was nothing but selfies. So I thought, okay, so here's what we can do. I'm going to set all the lights, and they're going to point right here when you push the button on. So I give her the app on the phone. Like when you push this button, it's that selfie button. All the lights are going to point there so you and your friends can take selfies. Cool, how much is that? Oh, $150 more. So they paid $150 just for me to have a scene where all the lights point there and then program it on the remote. That was it. Or, and I've done that quite a bit, including with bar mitzvahs. Or we have it where I tell them, hey, look, we have the lights flooded all around the room, and you can change the color of the lights whenever you want. So, I mean, I know that sounds trivial, you know, because we do lighting stuff all the time. But I can tell you right now, a teenager would be thrilled about knowing they can control the lights. You know, and if they want to, I don't know, if you want, you can even control which way the lights move. But I just give them a basic color wheel. They can go and start changing colors, doing all sorts of cool stuff. Do you like black lights? Yes. Well, listen, why don't we upgrade you from these floods to these guys right here with the black lights built in. When you push this button, all your main lights go down, and now you have your black lights on. Just little things like that are a really nice way to step it up in there. And so again, that's why software control is key, but software control on your phone is essential. And unless that has changed, my DMX and CompuShow are the only ones anywhere that allow you to design a remote control directly from scratch. It's literally like if you went to a factory and said, here's what I want for my MIDI controller, make it for me. Now, the nice thing is that with the easy remote, and again, I'll show you guys later on one-on-one if you want, and I also have a video on how to do it. It's more about just having buttons. You can also do overrides, too. Did Edgar cover LTP on my DMX by any chance? Okay, that means no. So, let me close out of this for just a second. So, on the bottom of my DMX, we have right here where you can see auto and LTP. Now, with some boards, LTP means lowest takes priority. With my DMX, it means latest takes priority. It's basically a fancy way of saying you can override it. So what I would do is on my easy remote, I would actually put all my dimmers on LTP, and then I would have them all mapped to a master fader. And now I can dim the lights down if I need to. Or what I'll do is a lot of times I will have just, I have moving heads where, you know, during Christmas time, I just have them with nothing but Christmas gobos. Snowflakes, Christmas trees, whatever the case may be. And then I have them all, the Gobo wheels, I have them all on LTP, and then I can just change them on the fly. So it makes the lighting designer's job a lot easier. They just need to do some quick on-the-fly control, and the client didn't pay for something too crazy. Last but not least, the number one thing I love, not just for holiday parties, but for anything, and that is media map, or video mapping. So merry mapping, everybody. See, there's another terrible pun. Video mapping is the art of taking a projector and basically have it contour around a surface. Years ago, it was a tough, long, complex process. Nowadays, you can do this in a matter of minutes. Now, I've been doing this for a while, for about, you know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years now. But I got this thing mapped out in about maybe 5 minutes, and it took me 10 minutes to really clean it up. So let me show you what the final product looks like. One projector, and I'm able to map pretty much everything that I need to. So again, this is using Media Master. We have 2 layers here. We've got a layer with the ADJ logo, and I just did the tile. I took a video from a group on Facebook or YouTube called Free Worship Loops. They make loops that you can download to use for free. So I grabbed one of theirs, and I told them I'd plug them in. But yeah, freeworshiploops.com, and they had these snow. And then I just told Media Master to remove the black background. And then over here, I have the wall done. Now, the thing that I want to tell people to notice is this right here. Okay, you can see the shadow there, but if I actually push this back, oh, let me see, actually, this one will show a little bit better. If I move this, you can actually see that I literally mapped around the contour of this with Media Master's video mapping. And what I really like about it is they make it super easy to video map. So I'm going to show you what my video mapper looks like. Video mapper mode, edit. And I know he already went over a lot of this, so I don't want to go too crazy with it. But basically, I just have my projector. You can actually see the video mapper live right then and there. So I just literally made multiple points, and it's just like painting by numbers. It's super easy. And what I really like about Media Master is that it's allowed me to do stuff that years ago would have cost me money and I couldn't be able to do. Projector stacking. I love projector stacking. That's taking 2 projectors, having them match perfectly, so that way, you know, you have twice the brightness, especially if you're in a really bright room. It's either you get a really expensive projector or you stack up multiple cheaper projectors. With Media Master, I can do it a lot easier. I have a computer that I just built, and it can run 4 4K displays simultaneously at 60 frames per second minimum. Yeah, and you could play Call of Duty on the same full resolution, or Fallout, you know, because that's not me though, that's my kids. So we have that computer there, and I can do 4 heads out. So now I can take the projectors, I can put them on each individual head, and I can do what's called a span. So it allows me to span all 4 projectors and create one super long image. Now, why is this cool? Because let's say you're doing pipe and drape, right? If you guys happen to do pipe and drape, or you work with a company that's pipe and drape, now suddenly you can take several projectors and do an entire image mapped across the entire pipe and drape. Let me show you an example of that. Let's see here. I actually was not expecting to pull out an example, but since I went in that direction, we're going to play it off my laptop versus on the screen there, so you guys can see a little bit about that. So there's 100 feet of pipe and drape, and this was done with only 2 projectors, and we actually stacked them, so there's technically 4. But it's hitting up the entire image. Let me get one where it's a little bit more steadier. Because you're talking about competing with a lot of light that's going on in the background as well. But I mean, literally, we had this mapped, and this show we had a massive technical difficulty with one of the cables that was pretty much bringing down the whole show, so we had to figure out which cable it was. So I had maybe about 15 minutes to do the video on the pipe and drape. So in 15 minutes, I was able to configure all 4 projectors, stack one on top of the other, and then seamlessly blend 2 images together. And then with Media Master, because you can control it with DMX, you can control it with MIDI, you can do keystrokes. I like to do DMX control. Now I can integrate Media Master to be part of my show. So if you remember how I mentioned that when people come in, and this is where it really all comes together. When people come in, I want one little thing to happen at a time. So if this was an event, these guys wouldn't have been on. They would have been on DMX. It would have just been just the white uplights. As you sit down and have dinner, then suddenly these snowflakes would come up and the room would start changing color. And then, you know, if it's a wedding and they're doing the cake cutting, that's when we start doing the projector mapping. We really want each thing to have a huge bang, because if it's all at the same time, I just personally notice it fizzles out a lot quicker. Now, if you are a dealer, and especially if you're talking to a DJ or somebody that's never done video mapping before, it can be somewhat intimidating. But I have taught my 15-year-old, 16 now, my 16-year-old son how to video map, and he's doing it flawlessly. They've really made this easy, and I personally made a whole bunch of tutorials, just a little quick plug there, on my YouTube channel. So it has become, Sorry. So it really has become a lot easier. Another nice thing again about Media Master is that it doesn't take a lot of system resources. I mean, right now, these videos suck up a lot because these are 4K. That one was a 4K video, but I'm running that. I'm running my screen capture program. I'm running my DMX, and I have a couple of things running in the background, and it's not lagging on video at all. So it's not a very resource-heavy program. As a matter of fact, I have a computer with Core 2 Duo that's ran Media Master before.
So you don't have to change the video card or the CPU lag?
Really the most important part, when it comes to Media Master, if you're building your own computer, you do not want your main unit and your video card or your output video card to be the same. So for example, if you have a rack mount computer, use your integrated card for the actual display, and then use your video card for the projectors. Do not use the second head on your video card for the display and then another one for the projectors. It's not lag, it's just stability.
Okay.
You're going to have a much faster response when that's completely separated. Likewise, if you want to run 4 projectors, do not get 2 cards. Get it all in one card. First of all, it's cheaper that way. It'll save you a few $100s, and it's going to be a lot more stable that way. You don't have to go crazy on RAM either. 16 gigs of RAM is more than plenty. especially on Windows. The difference between 16 and 32 is almost non-existent.
Doesn't matter if it's Mac or PC.
Doesn't matter if it's Mac or PC. There's a few advantages. With PC, you can build your own computer and just make it absolutely amazing. With Mac, you have Siphon. And PC has a version 2, which eventually, it's called Spout, and they will eventually support it. But Siphon allows me to take literally the video input from one program, as long as it supports it, and go directly into Arceus. So for example, Serato and Virtual DJ. If I have, if I'm running my own show, I'll have this running in the background, and I can feed the video input from my DJ software directly into here. So now I just have my little small MIDI board that controls my video stuff, and I can do a full VJ show completely by myself. But this also supports timecode as well. So I can literally I can split a signal off my turntables, have one go into my mixer, have the other part go into this, and when I'm scratching back and forth, it'll make the visualizers go along with it. And this is really important if your guy uses Traktor and suddenly say, oh, we want to do music videos. I don't know if you guys know about Traktor, but Traktor does not do music videos. With timecode, you could technically do music videos. Because think about it, you split the timecode off your turntables and Traktor, then into here, you load your music video at the same time he loads his, and you're good to go.
Even with a portable Traktor.
Well, it has to be Traktor timecode.
Okay.
So, unless actually Traktor may support MTC out, MIDI or audio timecode out, because they're adding MTC to this next MIDI timecode out. Right now it does audio timecode.
Yeah.
So if Traktor supports audio timecode out, yeah, you could go out there from it and directly into it. So it's just a unique way to cheat a common problem that a lot of people have had issues with. And last but not least, of course, is creating some sort of 3D effect. So again, the place that I told you that wants to do the video mapping and they want to map the wall. We have another one very similar to that. They have a really small budget, so we're just going to map one wall. But it's going to be coming out of this big giant window. So imagine here's the back wall, here's the window right here, we're just going to project there. Easy, I can map this thing in about 15 minutes. And that's because there's going to be a lot of daylight coming in. In the middle, next to the projector, we're going to put one of these guys out. So once the snowfall starts, we're just going to start it with this, but without the snowflakes. And then once the snowfall starts, now we create a really immersive 3D experience. So this is where you want to think outside of the box. Get yourself some of those candle warmers that do the Christmas scent smells. Make it smell like Christmas in there. Couple portable air conditioner units. You can put them behind the totems. Have them come out here. By the way, these are the new TCL M18s from Global Trust. But you can have like the hose coming out there, and you can get like a nice cold blast of air coming in. Make it really feel like Christmas. And that's one of the things that really will make you stand out. Because now I'm telling my clients, look, we can bring in lighting, we can do some amazing things, but we want to create a 3D experience, or 4D technically. We want to create that 4D experience. Thank you. We want to bring the scents, the sounds, the feels of Christmas directly into Florida. And in Florida, that's going to be a huge seller. Why? Because it doesn't snow here, and it needs to, because if it's 95 degrees one more time in the middle of November, I'm going to flip. This is the time of year where we're in our warehouse getting everything cleaned up after a busy homecoming season. No, we walk outside like, nope, went right back in. Thank you very much. So, so any questions on anything you guys have heard so far?